All right, welcome back. This is going to be my 11th year in review. This one pertains to vintage sports cards. I'm going to do the comic books in a separate video, mostly baseball, and this being the lone football card, the Bart Starr rookie from 57 Topps that I was fortunate enough to find with such nice centering. It's not perfect, but it's as good as it's going to get, it seems, for this particular card and grade, PSA 6. So I was really happy to be able to find this. If you really want to nitpick, there is a slight tilt to the image that you could pick up on if you stare at it long enough. But yeah, definitely glad to finally land that one. Just a card I like in general, this Jimmy Fox from 34 to 36 Diamond Stars, I guess. I had been looking for like a nice high grade copy, and I wasn't able to find one. But then this came along. I believe it was on eBay, but I knew the seller from Instagram, and so I ended up just doing a deal direct with him for, it wasn't very expensive at all. This 1.5 in the SGC slab, which I think looks really nice in the slab here. And there's a crease, which justifies the technical grade, which is kind of hidden in the catcher's mitt area, or the catcher's padding, chest protector. But yeah, just a really cool card. Really cool vintage card, in my opinion. This Jimmy Fox, and my lone representative from the Diamond Star set as of right now. As is this, also my lone representative from the Worldwide Gum set, which is a really cool set. Has that big DiMaggio card rookie in there, which I'll never have. But wanted to get a Yankees card, and Lefty Gomez, Hall of Famer. And I think also another, I forget if this is Instagram or eBay, but nicely centered 3, I guess. A little bit of snow going on, but wasn't going to complain. Again, it wasn't all that expensive, so Lefty Gomez there. Willie Mays, 57 Topps. Maybe my favorite Mays card as far as the image is concerned. Just really like this one. And almost perfect centering, but not quite. I tell the story where I passed on one several years ago for about, less than half of what this one ended up being. But, this one popped up, and another one of my coded messages through the eBay messaging system to circumvent the eBay police. And the guy figured it out and emailed me on Yahoo, and we were able to work things out for that. But that's a really sharp-looking card, in my opinion. As is this one. I was happy to grab this. And this was the second Gehrig, because I had that crossover, which I'll get to. But this is a 3 with a mark. And honestly, if you can't figure out where the mark is, then you know it's insignificant. I think it's here. But this is a nice, bright, clean copy from 34 Gaudi. And I guess the more popular of the 2 Gehrigs, but I actually like the other one better. And I might be in the minority there. VG3 with the MK qualifier. And probably a little bit of an overpay at the time because of the eye appeal, but whatever. So really happy to have that. Oh, and here's the other Gehrig. This was a BVG slab 1. And I bought it just for the sole purpose of cracking it out and submitting it to PSA, because the card looked fantastic in the slab. And you could tell just by looking at it. It's a great looking front. The issue lies here in the back with like some tape residue, adhesive, and some paper loss. But that might have bothered me in the past. It doesn't bother me anymore, especially when you're looking for cards. And you can't be that picky. And yeah, I could just tell this would look really good in a PSA slab. And I was cautiously optimistic for a 0.5 bump, but it did not happen. I guess PSA is a little stricter now, but whatever. One's fine. So this nice 34 Gaudi card number 61 to go with the other one. And as part of that crack out submission to PSA, it went this Ted Williams, which was purchased a couple of years ago. But it was not until this year I actually got around to, cracking it out. It was a BVG4, and I expected at least a 1 grade drop. And I think that sort of tends to be typical when you go from BVG to PSA. Looks much better in the PSA slab. Those BVG slabs are hideous. So there's Ted Williams from 1941 Play Ball. Okay, up next is a big one. Maybe this might be the biggest one this year. No, actually, the yellow Garrick probably is, but this is not too far behind. And I was super happy to work a deal for this offline for this bat off shoulder polar bear back. So I had to pay the premium for that polar bear back, but the front I thought was outstanding. It's a 1.5. There's a crease, that's why. But overall, the image is nice. Nice centering, nice color, and just a great looking card. This Cobb T206. This was my third Cobb at the time. And as a result of having acquired the 3, I kind of had it in the back of my mind that I might want to go for that 4th one at some point, and we'll get to that in a bit. But anyway, polar bear Ty Cobb, bat off shoulder. The seller wouldn't come down all that much because he had picked it up in a, I want to say it was a Huggins and Scott auction. You can see it on VCP. And he didn't make a whole lot of money on it. I understand he's got to make something. And I think he came off a little bit from his eBay price, maybe just what the selling fees would be. But I saved on sales tax, which was not insignificant by doing a deal with him privately. So there's that. I did pick up a few more rose cards this year. You know, I keep saying that maybe I'll do the run, but maybe I won't do the run. I'm leaning towards just not doing it. But I did pick up a few that I like. The 72, for example, nicely centered. PSA 8. And then this one's a tough one. So I had to compromise a little bit on the grade. I went with a 7.5 on this one. And these are notoriously tough to find, clean and sharp. As you know, the 71 top is maybe one of the most difficult sets to find in high grade just because of the those black borders. This one looks pretty good. I mean, there's some slight little white touch there, and you know, not much else. Centered, it's maybe 55, 45 left, right. My eyes picked that up, but anyway, still a nice rose card. So I got that one out of the way in case I want to finish the run. I mean, I might go up to 1980 because I made the comment that I want to stop buying so many slabs. And if I were to do rose, I'd have to go into the 80s and buy all those Topps cards from the junk wax era. And I just don't know if I want to do that just for the sake of finishing a run. And here's the 68. And this is a much nicer copy than what I had picked up originally. This card, the first time I bought it, it came in with the eyes kind of like double exposed. I think there's like 2 sets of eyes, and I didn't see it in the scan. And I tried to return it, and eBay wouldn't let me. And I said, it's probably a good thing. So I was like, okay, fine, I get it. I listed it, I think, the same day, and I sold it within a day or two, and lost a little bit of money on it just because of the commission fees or whatever. But I was happy to get rid of it as soon as I got it for the most part. And then later on, I'm not sure how long after, I mean, this was probably at least a year or more, this thing came around, and I went with this, and it's much nicer. And there's no issue with the registration whatsoever on this. 68 Topps. This is a card. I like the set. This 1922 American Caramel. This is the Cobb. Batting. He has another one in there. I think it's throwing or something like that. And there's some nice Ruth cards also in this set that I keep an eye on, but they're really expensive. I like the one where he's holding the ball. And then I also like the one where it's sort of a collage of 3 images of Ruth. But, yeah, it's not on my main target card list, but I wouldn't mind having a Ruth, one of them from this particular set. So time will tell if I'm able to pull something off. But anyway, this is a super nice card, I think. Just a great-looking image. Very popular image. God, I see that a lot. And then, for the first time here on my channel, to finish off, the green Ty Cobb green portrait in a PSA 2 with a mark. In the old days, I wouldn't want qualifiers, and I wouldn't want PSA 1s, but I've relaxed my standards quite a bit when it comes to some of these older key vintage cards. You can't be that picky. I mean, the centering isn't the best, as you could see. little bit of a crease there, right? And the mark is really not a big deal. It's somebody written their initials across the back on the top here. But, with a card like this, what are you going to do? Say, I'll wait for one that's better centered, or I'll wait for one with sharper corners. But those are super expensive. This card is, I guess it wasn't printed in as high a quantity. I don't know the story as to why this green Cobb is much more scarce than the other ones, but it is, and therefore the toughest and most expensive one to acquire. So that completes the Cobb run from T206, which is a nice little side project. And the story behind this, the same seller who, of the Yellow Garrick. And apparently he paid more for this than he sold it to me for. Not by much, but it's a case where he was willing to take a little bit of a loss. And I asked him what the story behind it was. I guess these things blew up in price a little bit, maybe a year or so ago, several months to a year ago, and now I guess they've come back down. But again, with vintage cars like this, I think you could throw technical grades out the window in some cases and just focus on the eye appeal. And it has a nice, sharp, clear image here. Rounded quarters, whatever, indicative of 2, the crease, and of course the NK. But as I said, when you start looking for cards, key cards like this, you can't be picky because they don't come around all that often at a price point that fits your budget, I guess. And so finished the year strong with a Ty Cobb green portrait. And in a minute, I'll talk about what I'm targeting for next year and some goals and collecting habits. So be right back. Okay, as far as next year is concerned, I do have a few cards I've been looking at lately, and things could change in a dime with what I ultimately end up getting. But for right now, I'd like to add the 1929 Churchman's Tobacco Cigarettes Babe Ruth card. It doesn't actually say Babe Ruth, but it's generally known as Babe Ruth on the card itself, and they're not that expensive for a plain Days Ruth. You could buy a nice low to mid grade for under $1,000. The grades are all over the place with it, but I'm looking at the Churchman Ruth, and one that's centered, just really nicely centered, and which seems to be tough because they seem to be biased, like left, right, left, whatever, one way or the other. So most of what I've come across have tended to be a little bit off-centered, so I'm still waiting. I'll be patient. Again, it's not a big card, and just a card I think is cool and would like to have that in my collection. Another one along those same lines is the 1948 Leaf Sugar Ray Robinson boxing card. I don't have any boxing cards in my collection. I think it's just a really cool looking card. He's one of the greatest boxers of all time. And also not a very expensive card to be had in low to mid grade, the 48 Leaf Sugar Ray Robinson. So I've heard a couple of people mention this already. I also am looking at a 1965 Topps Joe Namath. Now, I don't particularly care for tall boys, but I really like that card. And what I'm looking for is a nice one in an SGC holder, because I think it looks really good in an SGC slab with the way the black and the yellow contrast with one another. And a clean copy that's centered. I looked at a lot of them, and they just seem to be off-centered in one way or the other, or tilted, or it just seems like that's one of those cards where near perfect centering is just really difficult to find. And so as far as like a technical grade is concerned, maybe something in the 5 range. I want it to be clean. I want white borders. I kind of want it a little bit sharp. But something, maybe a 5. Again, I'll take a nice 3 or even a 2 if it's 2 because there's paper loss on the back and everything else about it looks great. But that's be my first tall boy card in the slab. And again, I'm specifically targeting one that's SGC graded just because of how it would look. Couple of big ones, which we'll see. One might be more attainable than the other, and that would be, for me, this 1933 DeLong Lou Gehrig card. Just really like that card. And again, it's kind of a bigger card. I'd be in like the 1 to 2 range if I'm able to pull something off with that. And then lastly, at least for this particular video, I'm saying I'm targeting next year. I've been targeting for a lot of years. The 1915 Cracker Jack Walter Johnson, probably like on a 1. Just really love that card. I'd love to have a Cracker Jack Hall of Famer in my collection. I don't own any Cracker Jack cards right now. And I just love the look of that old-timey sort of wind-up he's doing, and just looks like a great card to me. So you don't see him very often. I mean, years ago, these were all over eBay, say 10 years ago, you could probably pick one of these up, no problem. But it seems like a lot of these bigger cards have left eBay and now just show up in the auction houses where they go for way more money, it seems. But I don't know. So the Cracker Jack Walter Johnson, the 33 DeLong Gehrig, the 65 Namath, the 48 Leaf Sugar Ray Robinson, and the 1929 Churchman's Ruth is on my target list right now for 2024. I guess we'll check back in a year and see how I've done. I also plan to not buy as many cards. I didn't realize, I'm looking at this table now, this is probably, I don't know if I'll do this again. But anyway, that's sort of some of my collecting goals for 2024. If you hung in there long enough to listen to that, I appreciate it. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.